Good morning, Terry Ryder. Welcome to Yellow Shelf.
Happy to be here. I was always happy to talk about books, particularly mine,
Yep.
and real estate, which is one of my passions.
I know, right? And look, we'll talk about it in a minute, but you've written four books. Your latest book, congratulations, is called Why Property Prices Rise. Terry, tell us all about it.
Yeah, look, I've been specialising as a newspaper journalist originally, and I evolved into this role where I'm a specialist in researching and writing about real estate. And I started a business called hotspotting.com.au 20 years ago, which is a website-based business, pretty much in simple terms, designed to tell people where are the good places to buy in this. Australia's a very big country.
Yes.
Where in this country are the best places to buy for the best outcomes in terms of capital growth in particular. And obviously, real estate is a passion for many Australians. Home ownership is a big part of our culture, but also there's a lot of people who see real estate as a vehicle for growing their wealth and maybe funding their retirement.
Mm.
But the reality is, very few people know very much about it, and very few people do it very well. And that's an issue that I thought I could address with this book. Explain to people not just why property values rise, but why property values rise more in some places than in other places.
Yeah. And Terry, you mentioned you're the founder of Hotspotting, but you've also had almost like a 40-year career in real estate, in research and analysis. So you really know this space.
Yeah, it's well, I've been around a long time, obviously, but I started out as a newspaper journalist, just you know reporting on politics and whatever I was assigned to do. And then one day, when I was working at the Courier Mail in Brisbane in 1982, the editor called me in and said, "We've decided to make you property editor." I said, "Why? I don't know anything about real estate." He didn't seem to think that mattered. But I thought if I was going to do something, what seemed to be an important role in the newspaper, that I should become a little bit expert as much as I could. So it became a specialty. And when they tried to move me out of that into something else, I resisted. And I said, well, I've worked hard to become, to a certain degree, an expert. I want to stay with it. And then I went to work for the Financial Review, and then I evolved into other things. But very much for the last 40 plus years, I've been a specialist in researching and writing about real estate, which I love because I think it's really important. It's about shelter. There's so many elements to it that are part of the national political debate, obviously, at the moment with the shortage and the
Yes.
affordability problems. So it's just this incredibly important recurring issue that's not well handled by our politicians and not well understood by consumers. So
Yeah. And as a consumer, it can be really overwhelming, particularly, as you become a young adult and you want to learn about property and get into property and make smart decisions for your
yeah,
future. Yeah, look, property can feel overwhelming, certainly in those early days when I was younger. That was my experience.
it's interesting you use the word overwhelming because look, that's the word I hear most from people. I do a
Ah,
lot of strategy sessions. That's the service we offer with the business. And a lot of people come to us, they're overwhelmed by the size of the country and the size of the task that they have. They just don't know where do I buy and how do I go about it and how do I get the information I need? Because it's not part of the education system. So people come at some point. eh, Most of us, pretty much all of us, are going to be a real estate consumer of some form, either as a renter or as a property owner eventually. And most people just don't know very much about it. And it's the decisions that have to be made are huge.
mm,
And if you get it wrong, it can be something you could spend a lifetime recovering from. And I
mm.
do know people have made really bad investment decisions with real estate and never recovered. And it's covered in the book. There's a
Yeah.
section called the 12 rookie errors that people make, which prevent them from succeeding.
Yeah.
And getting the first one wrong is probably number one.
Yeah. And Terry, I was looking at your website and your business, and that's where I discovered this is your fourth book. Do you just want to mention the other books? I know you can go to the website and have a look at those, but
Yeah. Well, this is my first book for 20 years.
oh,
So
okay.
going back that far, I published four books called things like Confessions of a Real Estate Agent and Property Smart, and there was one called Real Estate Without Agent, showing people how they could actually sell their home without actually having to
Yeah.
engage an agent and go to the expense of a real estate
Yeah.
agent. But then I started this business 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's kept me very busy. I just haven't had the time. I haven't made time to write
Yeah.
another book. And then I've got to this point where I'm throttling back a little bit in terms of my work time.
Yeah.
And I love the process of researching and writing books, and I want to continue doing it as I get older and maybe semi-retired. I want to do more books. I don't want to write novels. I want to research and write books,
Yeah.
and not just about real estate. I've got a big list of topics that I've been salting away information about for years that I want to attack. But for the moment, it's real estate. There's another book I want to do on real estate called The Great Australian Nightmare, which is really about how politicians have stuffed up the Great Australian Dream big time. But a lot of that, those thoughts and information are in this book as well,
Yeah.
because it's become increasingly difficult for people to achieve what they want to achieve in this market, and our politicians aren't helping.
No. And look, Terry, when you write more, I would love to get you back with any future books to share on Yellow Shelf. I know why you're busy as well because you also host a podcast.
Well, that's right. It's one of the things I do, and also do a lot of just. I've got a little studio next door, and I one day a week I sit down with our expert, and I just do speaking to camera
Yeah.
pieces that for social media, talking about issues, and some of them are a bit of a rant, I have to admit, because there's a lot to rant about, and I really do feel very strongly that.
Yeah.
Um, Affordability, the shortage, the very high rents that people have to pay.
Yeah.
It's really down to our politicians. They've been bad policies for years and years at state and federal level have created this crisis, which is making it increasingly difficult for people. And it's fixable, but nobody in politics seems to have a clue about it.
Yeah.
So those are topics that I like to rant about and also interview people about.
Yeah.
But the main podcast I do is called the 1%,
Yes.
and that's because this statistics show that whereas over 3 million Australians own investment properties, only about 1% own five or more, which is what you might call a portfolio. You
Yeah.
need that level of properties to have some level of independence financially
Yes.
and base your retirement plan on it.
Yeah.
Most people never get beyond one or two.
Yep.
And so I interview people who have got beyond one or two and ask them how they got there and what mistakes they made and what they would advise people to avoid doing that they got wrong when they were young.
So much great content in there. Terry, if we're curious, if we're watching, if you want to learn more about the book, we want to learn more about you, your podcast, I'll put some information in the show notes, but you point us in the direction uh, to your website.
Yeah, well, the website is hotspotting.com.au, but the book itself is published by Major Street and it's in
Yes.
bookshops
Yes.
now, and also it's in the Christmas catalogue for Booktopia, which is
Oh,
nice, and
yay.
it's also available on Amazon. So there's
Yeah.
various ways that people can access it. Um,
Awesome.
so that they don't actually need to come to us to get the book. They can go wander into a bookshop and hopefully they'll find it on the shelves there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I'll put some links in, but I will put in some links to your podcast shows as well as to Hotspotting. Terry, thank you so much for joining us, and I would love you to come back with any future books, whatever they may be.
I'd love to do that. Unfortunately, it takes quite a long time to produce
I
them.
know.
You're probably aware of that.
Well, and that's okay because I'm not planning on going anywhere, so you can come back when you're ready.
Okay, Joey, nice to talk to you today.
Cheers.
Okay.